Hello everyone. First of all, let me apologize for having taken off for like 3 weeks. I'm not gonna lie, I started losing interest thanks to the events of this month because most of it was just summoning banners and bound hero battles. But one thing woke me, and that is that my boy Karel is getting a weapon refinery update. Xiahou Dun Karel was one of the major factors of me getting into Fire Emblem Heroes in the first place. You see, last year around this time when I was playing Nier Automata with Mid, I made mentions of Karel and how I would really like this dude. And when I got the game and checked him out, he was right! Karel has significant brain damage and is completely out of control, feasting all the time and piling victims to the skies so that the gods bless his blade. His brain damage is so much so that he doesn't even remember the name of his blade anymore. This brain damage, of course, runs in the family, causing his niece Xiahou Fear to also suffer the same brain damage, but at least she does have some nice thighs. Now, if I were to make prediction on this blade, I think that this thing could possibly be an upgraded Wadal. After all, that is the blade that runs in the family, so maybe plus 15 or 20 damage? Originally, a couple months back, I thought maybe it has to do with Xiahou Dun's more battle-hungry nature and his high health, so that it might have something to do with his health, you know, something to scale with his health, because initially, when you see his builds, it's all about getting his reprisal set up so that when he takes damage, he pays back with chunks and chunks of damage. His character is actually pretty well built, even in its original form. I really like that. He actually had a direction with his build. But anyway, since Fear has a different stat line though, I think that since she's also getting this piece, I'll have to reconsider my stance. The idea of a family blade though makes the most sense out of all this. Of course, they might surprise me, but for now, that is my guess. I also might just plus 10 Karel the next time he shows up on a banner. Hopefully, he'll be by himself, because he's always been sharing banners lately. But I wouldn't hold my breath. He has to deal with both Fear and Roy. That said, next up, Roy's our boy. Finally getting his binding blade worked on after 9,000 years. I originally predicted that his blade might have distant defense to improve on what the binding blade already had, but then ended up getting that instead. He could also get distant counter, but currently distant counter weapons don't have additional effects, so outside of breaths, that is. So I don't think that's gonna happen, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it does happen, because, well, Roy is cool, he's our boy. But anyway, maybe though, Binding Blade will get close defense instead. I mean, Sephiel, the badass, did wield both of them at the same time at one point. Of course, they could also go with some crazy direction with the blade and make it explode if you hold the B button too long or something. But then we'll be going right back to Wadal territory again. So, speaking of Wadal and Wrath, now, Hector the Erector gets to swap his Armads and Berserk Armads. I'm so glad I didn't buy into the hype and summon Los Angeles Hector, because one was good enough for me. Now, since I hadn't had the chance to compare the two before, let's do a brief thing on that. So personally, what really stopped me from having anything to do with LA Hector, even though he had power creep stats, was that the normal Armads was completely broken as well. Yeah, I mean, you can rip someone's face off with double wrath and +1 cooldown reduction, but then you can also, you know, equip Wary Fighter on Hector and just get All Breaker when you get attacked. Honestly, I feel that it's probably a safer option, considering that a second hit from an enemy that is initiating on Hector could potentially kill him, especially if the attacker has skills of their own, though that could also be mitigated with Guard if you want to drop that 2 Wrath nonsense. Still, Berserk Armads is a wonderful, wonderful option to have. And now I can get it on my +10 Hector without investing on a new one. Yay! Okay, so, after Hector we have Lilina, I actually wonder what she will get on her 4-blaze. I mean, the thing originally kills dragons and wyverns, or wyvern riders. Given the recent introduction of a huge chunk of dragon units, I'm guessing they might have that in mind. I think it's likely something like Thani, but against flying and dragon instead. Maybe with some stats along the side, since luck isn't part of the program. It sounds boring, but that's how the weapon originally was. If that is indeed what the effects are, then I must shed a tear for Mirth, the Dragon Nino, because she's going to take legendary damage, a role that was previously occupied by her predecessor, Fei. Next, we have Lloyd. Lloyd and his Rico Blade. I thought that he would get an upgrade eventually because the thing was power creeped a little while ago by Eureka and La Rochelle. Not sure if they'll just buff the effects or do something else with it. I mean, the original thing wasn't too exciting either. What I am hoping for, though, is that they'll do a stealth update to his face. That'll help him more than any numbers ever would. But I also highly doubt that'll ever happen. And finally, we have Ephraim, and it's really transparent who is being favored around here. Anyway, comparing Seekman to its flame counterpart, I'm very slightly more in favor of the original because it works better for an infantry unit to stick to their pals. Unlike legendary Ephraim, who gets to strike an enemy formation, preferably with Gale Force, and then quickly retreating or trampling another unit right afterwards. The infantry version is a little bit slow on that mobility thing. The infantry version can retreat, however, but they can't always reach their reach another target. So it's better on a mounted unit for if you plan on doing that. Infantry Ephraim does have access to infantry pulse, but if I do that, I might as well just fuel a really powerful attack and just have hit and run and pull back to make my escape back into friendly territory. You can do that with the regular version as well. And then afterwards, you just need to heal yourself. Easy peasy. All in all, though, the Flame Seekman can work, but you might run into situations where it would sometimes fail if the enemies are too close for Ephraim to strike independently. The Flame Seekman also works on the enemy phase, but I also wouldn't really want to leave Ephraim alone because, well, let's be honest with ourselves here, he's kind of fat and slow, and getting isolated with multiple foes just doesn't sound like a great idea for a footman in this game. Although, I can see it working better in PvE content such as Grand Hero battles, where you don't have to worry about dealing with enemies with optimal builds. Well, that's pretty much it for my thoughts on the Weapon Refinery update. Now, since I really don't want to make another video on somewhat old content, let's take a brief moment to catch up on the current content by talking briefly about the Spring Banner and how I'm not going to pull for it outside of the free summon. Speaking of which, alright, let's go and summon and see if we can get the target that I wish for. And that is Spring Kagero, Boobadactyl. Come on, Boobadactyl, show yourself! Give me your power! So that I don't have to summon. Oh, it's just Matt! Oh. Oh, well, that sucks. Okay, time for another free summon then. Let's see if I can't get Philadelphia. Ooh, 3 blues. I might get Philadelphia. Come on and give it to me! Oh, yeah! Well, I suppose that's something. I suppose that's something. But I already maxed her out. I already have a +10. I should be happy, but I'm not. I can't even father her. What do I do? Well, that was a disaster, but I can't expect too much from a free summon. Anyway, in regards to the Spring Banner, I'll try to keep it brief because this is kind of old. So the thing is obviously the aim for is that pair of massive flying boobs, Boobadactyl herself. Now, am I actually going to use her because her boobs look like they're going to just ooze out of her chest at any moment? No, that's not it. See, initially flying range tomes was a thing because they can inherit blade tome, and that combined with the flying mobility led to a horrible age. An age where bomber units such as Bulbasaurus Rex plated simply crush things to death and then get repositioned away freely. I was an early adapter of such horrid flyer emblem, and you know what? They're still very, very good today. So they obviously stood the test of time. Now, while Boobadactyl does hit pretty hard herself, oftentimes it's not quite enough. Now don't get me wrong, Wadao Dagger is nice, but it's somewhat weak unless you have infantry pulse support to get it started. Therefore, I would much rather transfer that carrot thing, to regular Kagero. I'm still kind of debating whether to actually spend orbs to try and pull one Boobadactyl or not, because believe it or not, I'm still a huge fan of that poison dagger that she came with. I want to see if they'll eventually buff that one day. Besides, maybe I'll get to pull Boobadactyl with female Grima on a legendary banner someday, so I think I might just wait. Next on the list we have Spring Nino, who, thanks to her sisters, she now dresses in age-appropriate outfit that'll surely turn the head of Mars. Honestly, I think she's a better fit for him anyway. Al-Qaeda is fine, but 2 red swords is just no good. Though that's different in the original, but who cares about that in this game? Anyway, as is the fate of all mounted blue tomes, they get compared to Reinhardt, and just as most people who has the same idea probably, I would feed her to Reinhardt as well. But she actually is pretty decent as an individual unit as well. I mean, she can run Blade Tome very well, but then again, I mean, that's just what Ninos do, so no surprises there. I think though her base kit is probably best since it allows her to manipulate the battlefield with Marth, who should preferably have chill speed. Combined with 2 capable fighters and a mixed team with tactics, you have a really strong team there. Well, that is until they buff like Harsh Command to work as a C-slot skill or something anyway. Then we have Bulge Lord, who he gets to serve as Spoon for Wei Yan Legion. I don't plan on using him actually using him ever, even if he does have huge balls, probably from facing down one too many Ganondorfs. Then finally we have Sharina, who, thanks to not wearing armor, actually shows that she is pretty decently well endowed. Personally, I prefer this size over melons and boards, but I still like them all anyway. Much like Spring Nino, I think she's a fine unit to use if you don't compare her to Nino, using her base kit instead. If I were to father her off, I'm definitely going after that Swift Stance. That thing is actually quite nice, preventing doubles or even allowing you to double the enemy while still giving you a good chunk of resistance. I think that this is also the first stance that has speed. Either way, it's rather useful, and it also potentially free up the B slot for other fun tools. Anyway, that's pretty much it for my thoughts and opinions section of today's programming. Coming up, I'll be doing that stupid legendary hero battle and the 6 Paths of Pain plus rival domain shenanigans. I might also reveal female Grima and her banner if there's enough interest. I thank you all for watching. Until next time.